Hi there. Today we are excited to present our findings on item analysis in ESL listening assessment. Our team, consisting of me, Leong, or I go by Vincent, FARAH NABILA, Lee Ru Yen, and SITI AQILAH, has worked diligently to create 5 items for this assessment. To ensure the credibility of our work, we have referred to 2 articles and 1 book to support our research. Further details on our reference can be found in the next slide. Here are our reference. Number 1, an article entitled An Assessment of English Listening Test of Senior High School Students by Li Yu Han and Huang Fang, published in 2022. And the second article entitled A Communicative Validation Study on an English Listening Test in Korea by Zi Zhang, Xiaoshu Xu, and Yunfeng Zhang, published in 2023, and a chapter of Item Analysis in Language Assessment by Rita Green in her book Quantitative Data Analysis for Language Assessment, Volume 1, Fundamental Techniques, published in 2019. According to Rita Green 2019, the process of item analysis is an essential statistical procedure employed by test developers in order to evaluate the quality and validity of test items. During the test item development process, item writers are limited to making conjectures about the difficulty level and validity of each item, specifically in terms of its ability to accurately assess the intended construct. In order to verify the initial hypothesis, test developers require data obtained from a field trial. The objective of the first article, An Assessment of English Listening Test of Senior High School Students, is to evaluate the listening section of the sophomore monthly examination paper with the goal of serving as a guide for future senior high school listening test subject arrangements. The reliability and validity of the listening test were examined. Item analysis was also done to look into the rationality of the listening test paper. Based on the findings of the item analysis, the listening test questions were deemed unsatisfactory and in need of improvement. The analysis revealed several key issues. Number 1, around 80% of the questions were found to be of unsatisfactory quality, indicating that the test items were not effectively designed to assess listening comprehension skills. Number 2, repetition of question types. The test contained repeated type of questions, which could potentially lead to biasness and limited coverage of various listening skills. Number 3, homogeneous content. The test content was relatively uniform, lacking diversity in the types of listening materials and context presented to the students. Number 4, poor discrimination. The questions had an overall discrimination index value of less than 0.35, which means they did not effectively distinguish between high-performing and low-performing students. This suggests that the test failed to differentiate students based on their listening abilities. Number 5, inability to reflect differences in listening ability. Future analysis, specifically the independent sample t-test, showed that there was no statistically significant difference in listening scores between students with higher and lower school ranks. This indicated that the test did not effectively capture the variability in listening abilities among students with different levels of proficiency. So, in order to more accurately assess students' listening skills and encourage the development of their listening skills, it is important to balance the reliability and validity when arranging the content of listening tests in high school. Additionally, the significance of question differentiation should be increased. The objective of the second article is to investigate high school students' listening comprehension skills and to examine the test construct validity using classical test theory (CTT). The key findings are: number 1, in terms of validity and reliability, the overall validation of the listening test discussed in the article was deemed satisfactory. The test demonstrated acceptable parameters in both CTT reliability and confirmatory factor analysis CFA validity. Number two, the test was found to be too easy with a mean difficulty level of 0.7, resulting in limited discrimination among test takers. This means that the test did not effectively differentiate between students with varying levels of listening comprehension skills. Number three, the test did not clearly assess distinct subskills of listening comprehension. The covariance data between subskills A and B, higher and lower level processing showed relatively high correlation, indicating that the subskills were not well separated. Number four, the insufficient discrimination observed in the various subskills of listening comprehension was partially attributed to the fact that students were not taught how to use listening skills in class. This highlights the importance of incorporating listening skills development in the classroom to enhance students' performance in listening tests. To improve the test authenticity and effectiveness, the authors suggest including more communicative and challenging higher level items that demand higher order processing skills. By doing so, the test will provide a better assessment of students' listening comprehension abilities and encourage the development of more advanced listening skills.
Based on the articles, items analysis is a crucial process that helps educators understand the effectiveness of test items and their impact on students' performance. Firstly, item analysis allows us to assess the difficulty level of the test items and determine whether they are appropriate for the students. Secondly, item analysis helps us identify whether the test items effectively distinguish between students who are high performing and those who need further support. The third significance lies in the statistical analysis provided by item analysis. This analysis allows us to measure the effectiveness of each test item accurately. We can identify which questions were too difficult, which questions were too easy, and which were just right. This can help us refine our assessments. Next, item analysis helps us ensure that the difficulty level of the test items aligns with the proficiency levels of the specific group of students. Another important aspect is the exploration of the impact of test formats on test taker performance. Different formats, such as multiple choice questions, open-ended responses, or essay-type questions may influence how well students perform. Number 6, item analysis allows us to check the internal consistency between items in an assessment. We have to ensure that all items are reliably measuring the same construct or skill to maintain the overall validity of the test. Lastly, item analysis helps us determine the lexical difficulty of the test items. According to Rita Green in Quantitative Data Analysis for Language Assessment Volume 1, there are 3 stages involved in item analysis. The first stage assesses the facility values, or also known as difficulty levels, of the test items. These results are compared with the test developers' expectations, and significant differences are flagged for further investigation. Additionally, the performance of distractors in multiple choice and multiple matching tasks is analyzed in this stage to gauge their effectiveness. The second stage of item analysis evaluates the discrimination levels of each item, which indicates how well the items distinguish between stronger and weaker test takers. During the last stage of item analysis, the focus lies on assessing the internal consistency or reliability of the test items, which is often represented by cone bar alpha. It assesses how well the items measure the same construct or concept, essentially measuring how closely the items are interconnected. In this section, I will talk you through the design of the listening test we have created. The listening test comprises of 5 multiple choice questions, with each question offering 3 answer choices. The topic is wildlife, taken from the English Plus 1 Year 5 textbook. The test is tailored specifically for Year 5 students, CEFR A2 level. The primary objective of this test is to assess the listening skill of our Year 5 students, to evaluate their vocabulary, comprehension, and listening abilities, specifically in relation to wildlife topics. The test will help us identify their proficiency in understanding essential information and make inferences from the audio materials provided. As part of this assignment, we administered the design test to a group of 57 Year 5 students.
Now let's begin the item analysis for our design test by evaluating the facility values. These values show the proportion of test takers who answered each item correctly, helping us determine the item's difficulty level for this particular group of test takers. However, the perception of whether an item is easy or difficult depends on the test purpose and the characteristics of the target test population. According to Green in 2019, facility values ranging from 0.30 to 0.70 are typically considered acceptable in proficiency tests. Nevertheless, it's crucial to note that as long as the items effectively differentiate between stronger and weaker students, the facility values can deviate from this range. Conversely, for our design test, which serve as an achievement test, Green 2013 suggested that facility values often tend to be quite high, typically falling within the 0.80 to 0.90 range, indicating that students have understood the course content. Occasionally, test developers may purposefully include a few easy items at the beginning of the test despite their lack of discrimination, with the aim of bolstering students' confidence and alleviating stress levels as suggested by Hugh in 2003. As depicted in Figure 1, the facility values of the items in our design test span from 0.52 to 0.91. Given that it is an achievement test, we can infer the following. 1. Item 1 could not effectively discriminate between stronger and weaker students. And 2. Item 2, 3, 4, and 5 were effective in discriminating between stronger and weaker students. Moving on, we also conducted a distractor analysis. Distractors play a critical role in assessments, influencing the overall test score and impacting student performance. Distractor efficiency (DE) is a key metric that measures how well distractors divert students from selecting the correct answers. According to Green 2013, in proficiency tests, distractors should ideally attract at least 7% of the test population, and in high-stakes tests, and even higher attraction may be preferred. However, for achievement tests with higher facility values, a lower threshold level for distractors should be set. This means that distractors should be designed to confuse or mislead test takers lacking the required knowledge or understanding of the topic being assessed. Based on our design test, we conclude that all items have effective distractors ranging from 3.5% to 24.6%.
Next, the provided data in Figure 2 presents the discrimination indices for 5 assessment items. Discrimination indices indicate how effectively each item distinguishes between high-performing and low-performing students. A discrimination index closer to 1.0 suggests that the item effectively differentiates between students with good understanding and those without, while an index closer to 0.0 indicates a weaker discriminatory power, which suggests the need for item review, as it implies that weaker test takers are answering correctly while stronger ones are getting it wrong. The results show that item 4 has the highest discrimination index at 0.93, followed by item 5 with 0.87, indicating their effectiveness in distinguishing between students' performance levels. Items 2 and 3 also demonstrate a strong discrimination index of 0.53 and 0.60 respectively. However, item 1 has lower discrimination indices of 0.27, suggesting the need for further evaluation and potential improvement to enhance their discriminatory power. In the final stage of our analysis, we will calculate the Chromebus alpha value for our design test to assess its internal consistency. If Chromebus alpha is close to 1, it indicates the high internal consistency, meaning that the items in the scale are strongly correlated with each other and effectively measure the same construct. If Cronbus alpha is close to 0, it suggests low internal consistency, indicating that the items in the scale do not correlate well with each other and may not be measuring the same construct. The data in Figure 3 reveals that the test exhibited an internal consistency reliability of 0.51, which takes into account the total number of items, the variance of the test scores, and the variance of test items. In general, a desirable task level alpha should be at least 0.7 as suggested by Nunnally in 1978 and ideally 0.8 as recommended by Pallant in 2007 and Salkind in 2006. A lower alpha value may imply that one or more of the items are targeting different aspects of the construct being measured. We could achieve an alpha of 0.8 by increasing the number of items, evaluating and eliminating poor items, revising ambiguous and poorly worded items. In conclusion, item analysis is a powerful tool in English language teaching. The results are vital to empower test developers to make well-informed decisions for future tests. They can choose to include successfully trialed items, revise and retrial others, or eliminate those that do not meet the required standards. This process ensures that only the most reliable and valid items are included in the final test, thus helps to tailor teaching methods and provides valuable insights into students' language abilities.